For those who are regular viewers of the Stop Hunter YouTube channel, you'll be familiar with my regular look at South African stocks, what I think might be hot for the next few months. As well, I also look at other stock markets throughout the year as well. And for those who aren't familiar, thank you for joining us. If you're new to the channel, glad to have you on board. And in this video, I'm going to pick out, like I said, my selection of South African stocks I think worth looking at for Q4 2023. Remember, do your own due diligence around these stocks before risking any of your own funds. Very important to stick to your trading plan as well. Don't just jump in, do your homework. And also in this video, I'm going to look at the South African stock market as a whole, where it's been, where it could be going, to piece together a broader picture, as well as focusing on a bunch of stocks I think are worth a look at. So with that, let's get into it. So before we get into those potentially hot stocks for Q4 2023, let's have a look at the SA40 index. That's the main stock market index of South Africa, to paint a broader picture of what has been going on and have a quick outlook as to where things might be moving to. So we've got the weekly chart for the SA40 here in front of you. A few indicators splashed on there to help us decide what's been going on, where it could be moving to. General takeaway, it hasn't been too bad a period from 2020 onwards. The market has been moving up. It has been a bit, bumpy, but nice waves there to be trading in terms of the price action. Currently, we're looking at this little sell-off from those highs that we saw back in January time, 75,000 just over, and it has been a bit rangy in that box, potentially breaking down from that Fibonacci line there at about 66,500, potentially down to the key one, which is about 59,500. A lot of noise through there, as you can see in that zone there. Indicators at the bottom, modified DMI bearish, awesome oscillator bearish, volatility right down there at the bottom quite low as well, about 15% compared to where it can get up to in the 50s when we saw that spike down. That will be COVID time, and then before it pushed on up. But 15-20%, it's nothing unusual, but it's quite low for what it normally plays at. Other downside areas to look for, I think if it slips from 59.5, you're talking 49.5. That's the other key Fibonacci line, 38.2%. Again, a lot of noise around over there back in late 2019. Upsides, well, if it can get through those highs, we're talking 86, 87,000 as a first port of call, but it's got to be some fundamental shifts, I think, globally and within the South African economy to get it up there. So maybe a slower progression if we turn more bullish up to the highs, the previous highs, and then up into that space between 75 and 86,000. But at the moment, we're on, like I say, this bearish pullback, potential to move down to the late 59s to 60,000 area. Right, let's get into those stocks and take a look at the sectors and industries that they come from. Now, I've got 8 stocks for you, and they actually individually fall into 8 different stock sectors, as you can see there on the left hand side. We've got transportation, finance, process industries, consumer services, retail trade, industrial services, consumer durables, and producer manufacturing. So a good spread there. And then if we flip over to the right hand side, we broke that down by industries. Again, it's 8 separate industries there. To be more specific about these type of stocks and what sectors, industries they play in, we got containers and packaging, restaurants, apparel, footwear, engineering, construction, electronics, trucks, marine, shipping, and investment managers. And The note here is from previous videos I've done on stocks to pick, normally been heavy on the mining sector, the commodity sector, which is pretty obvious really, and also finance, but none of those sectors appear here in this Q4 review of the stocks I'm going to look at. So we've got 8 to go through, 8 very different ones, like I said, from previous videos and updates on my stocks that I look at for South African market. So let's get into those 8. I'm going to use 2 different charts for this analysis, a longer term look using the weekly candlestick chart, and then narrowing it in to the Renko charts to get some shorter term price action, helpful for targets, risk management, that sort of thing. And first up, we've got a company called Mondi PLC. They're actually UK HQ'd, but they can be traded on the South African stock market very easily. About 150 billion market cap, this one, and 26,000 odd employees. What do they do? It's all about containers and packaging. Manufacture, sell packaging and paper products literally globally. Also very big in South Africa. That's why I'm focusing on them here, and easily tradable there for you guys there, or pretty much anywhere around the world actually, if you're interested in this stock. Let's take a look at the longer term price action. Well, we can see that, you know, from where we're going back to 2013, a very good run up. Let's just measure that, see how high that actually run was, up to those highs, which were about there. That's 385% return there. That was to 18, so 5-year period, pretty decent. And then we've got this, what I would call wide range box price action, between 43,320 down to the lows there of 22,900. So it's been quite, you know, wide rangey. And then we've got this from March 22, this tighter box here, and hopefully you can see how the price has been moving on back up towards the top end there. It's got 3 touches in there that it's got to get through at about 34,250 before it can think about moving up. Let's just put on some Fibonacci's to see where it could be going off to. Let's actually take it from the highs and lows of that block that I've drawn on there. Let's go from there to there, draw them on, spread them out a bit. Might just give us a bit of better range to see what's going on. Let's pull that down. Right, so remember, we're bullish of these stocks, so let's just clear those drawings. So we've got to clear a picture. Sorry, let's get back with our Fibonacci again, so it's all a bit clearer. Right, so we've got the point of control down here at 28,840, just below there. Trading around this key Fibonacci line, 3,600. Like I said, look at those touches there, about 33,000. Next upside, that key Fibonacci, 35,300. The high is 42,901. We've seen it once, we've seen it twice. Got to push on up through there, and longer term upside targets 48,000, 51,000 and 55,000. So let's now get into some shorter term price action with the Renko chart. So I've got 200 block size for this chart. Now if you want to learn more about the Renko charts, I'll put a playlist at the end of this one, for this video, for you, that you can work your way through. It's got everything you need to know if you want to master the world of Renko. But to me, it just makes things a bit more transparent, a bit more easy to understand. Now, I've drawn on the highs and lows there to get the Fibonacci's around these numbers. And again, with the Renko, you can easily see, you know, the tops, the bottoms, the support and resistance type areas. And that range that we talked about, we can see it a lot more clearly. We've got all of 23 on here. It just recently broke up and broke back down into that area, 61.8% Fibonacci line at 31,500. Point of control down at 29,348. Bit of a gap in the volume at price there that could see that move back towards that support area, which we've seen a few times. So we could see there, and then it bounce on up. If it's, you know, more holding this type of up sort of shape to it, then we could be seeing a bounce from here. Upsides 33.7, 35, and then 36.1 to the upside. Downside wise, so that point of control 29,348, just above that fit the sort of area where there's a lot of volume, around about 31,000, and down to those lows again, 27,983. So that is Mondi. Let's go on to our second choice. So second up, we got a company called the BID Corporation. South Africa based, about 130 billion market cap, 28,000 employees. What do? It's all about food and drug retailing. What else do we need to know about them? Well, actually, they're quite global. Food service solutions, Australia, UK, Europe, other international locations, all sorts of different food areas covered, from hospitality, catering, retail sectors, distribution of fresh ingredients, fish, seafood, meat, produce, dairy products, you know, the whole lot. And let's now focus in on the longer term chart view. Well, we can see the lows in there, and that's going to be COVID time. A business like this is going to be impacted by that. That's about 17,500. Since then, a pretty decent recovery. At the highs there, up 165%, just pulling back at the moment. I've drawn on the Fibonacci's there. Not a lot of volume, as you can see there at price. Down to that point of control, which is slap bang on the 38.2% Fibonacci line. Big block of trading going on in that sort of area, building up that volume there. 28,391, that's, you know, 28.5, let's round that up to, is the key number for a really strong pullback if things go wrong there. 35,000, 31,500, the downside support areas, but we're thinking more positive for this stock. And in terms of upsides longer term, yeah, if we can get through those highs at 46,000, we're talking 53, 58,000 to the upside. It's been a pretty strong year for BID so far. Let's look at the indicators at the bottom. Starting to look a bit more bearish in the shorter term, only because of that pullback that we're seeing. It's hovering around this point control area, 42,500. We've got key Fibonacci line here at let's call that 41,000, where that volume is as well. Then under that, not a lot, down to those, start of year lows, 32,850. But looking at this, we've got a lot of support in down here, a lot of volume, like we said. So really, 39,000 looks a pretty strong area for potential bounce back if it did pull back. And then we're looking, if we can get through the 45,500 highs, 49,000, 50,000, then 53,000. Next up, we've got an investment holding management company operating in the specialty retailers sector, fashion, apparel, footwear, merchandise, headquartered Cape Town, South Africa, but big in UK, Germany, Ireland, other African countries as well, but like I say, predominantly a South African based country. Now on the charts, see, it hadn't been a great longer term history. We had those highs in at 11,400 area a couple times before it broke on down to the lows March 2020, but since then has been pulling back very nicely. A good turnaround there, and as we can see, point of control longer term about 5,250 area, and just pushing up to this key Fibonacci line where we got a lot of volume again. So that's at 7,900. So we got a breakthrough there to get to 9.5 and then to 11.5 highs before it can think of going any further. And real long term, we're talking maybe 14,000 as upside, but downside support sort of areas. We first of all, we've got this 6,800 area. We've got that gap there in the volume at price back down to this Fibonacci line 5,700 to the point of control 5,250. And if things do go wrong, then we're talking back to 2,150 for that low period in March 2020. But again, like I said, we're positive. I think we got a lot of price action around that 4,650 sort of area to offer some longer term support if it needs to, for that potential bounce back towards those highs as a possible target. So in terms of the Renko, we've got a short-term correction coming off those recent highs at 77.30. Next key Fibonacci line with this volume at price here, 6,500, 6,600. And then under that, down to that next key Fibonacci line. Let's round that up to 5,900. You can see covers a lot of that slippage under that zone in that box there. So that looks like the weak downside. At the moment, trend still holding strong, just in terms of stochastics pulling back a little bit. Short-term correction, maybe a buy the dip opportunity. Looking for it to move to the 8,500 area. Next up, we have a Joburg HQ company called Wilson Bailey Holmes Ofcon Limited. Now they're construction and engineering company, and quite heavily into the UK as well as South Africa. 5 segments they work in: building, civil engineering, roads and earthworks, property developments, construction materials. It builds things like, you know, shopping centres, commercial buildings, hotels, hospitals, that sort of thing. About 50 odd years old, the company. Had been looking at the charts on the way down for a big chunk of its time. We can see that sort of trend there, that it has now broken to the upside. It has been a good recovery though, from March 22 up about 83%. More like these guys, we've got the point of control up here at 15,700, so still a lot of room if that's mean reverting back to that point of control area. Not too much volume there as well, so it could be a quicker move up to that level. You can see all that price action in there. Didn't really want to go above those highs, 18,250, 18,270 area, so that's the ultimate push up towards that next level. And if it could potentially break that, then we're talking 21,500 downwise. I think support at this 10,800 area, that's key Fibonacci line, and then the next one just around about 9,000. You can see all that trading noise in there as well. Now the Renko, we're focusing on this price zone between the lows of May this year at 9,300 to the highs where it tried to get there, and there's failed a few times to get through 12,400. Just pulling back to the point of control, which is at, let's call it 11,881, and then we've got the next key Fibonacci area at 11,225. supported by the volume at price all through this messy area here, which we call 10, 8, 11,000. Then the next down numbers 10, 500, 10,000, 9, 300 there to the downside. But we're talking positive stuff here, and we're saying that, you know, it could be bouncing from those pullback areas to 13,250, 13,690 and 14,300. Then we've got a company called Renet Investments. The only pure, I call it, financial play on this list compared to previous lists I've been producing. Interbanking services, incorporated in Luxembourg, tradable on the South African stock market, and you can see from the 2019 lows right at the start of the year around 19,275, it's up about 130%, just pulling back. That was 130% to its highs, to this support area 39,382. If it wants to go higher, it's got to get through the highs 44,857, and then longer term 52,000, but not a lot of volume there. So this one looks more of a risky play for a move down. Key Fibonacci line at 35,000, where that volume starts to pick up, could be a short-term support area. You can see quite a few touches there around that sort of area. Then we're talking maybe that bounce back if it continues on down, point of control around 29,000. But remember, we're positive on this one. We're looking for that push back to the highs and through. And shorter term on the Renko charts, we can see right at the bottom there, it's all looking pretty bullish at the moment there as the price recovers from that slight pullback round to the point of control area, 41,300. Then looking to test those highs again, 44,170, before potentially moving up to 49,452, sort of areas where we're talking downside, where we've got the moving average here lining up with the Fibonacci area at 36,800 as potential support area. We've got a bit of noise through there as well, not a lot of volume down, you know, parallel with that. Other key Fibonacci line 38.2% at 32,254, so that looks like a longer term stronger pullback for any possible bounce on upwards. Then we have a company called Runa Limited. Apologies if I pronounced that incorrectly. Another Joburg HQ'd company, founded way back in 1888. What do? It's machinery, tools, heavy vehicles, trains and ships, operating in fields of electrical engineering, information communication technologies, applied electronics. Very heavy in South Africa as well as internationally. So a real long-term company, this one. And we can see from the stock price, it did dip from those highs back in 2018 of 800 to the lows around September, October 2020, which was at 2,800. Since then, though, again, like a lot of the stocks we're looking at the moment, a nice recovery right back to the point of control, 6,268, 125% return. We can see that, nice strong uptrend. Let's get the Fibonacci's on there, see what's going on. Let's go from there to there, and let's pull that across. Let's flip that round, and what can we get? Well, we got, I suppose, there at 5,200 possible pullback zone. A lot of price action noise in that recent run up of the trend. That could prove a strong support area for potential bounce. Got to get through this point of control though. Then we got Fibonacci 66.44, then 76.65, and then the highs pushing on towards 9,000. We're talking longer term, we're talking 10,600. Let's just pull that down a bit, and we've got 11,400 as potential upsides. But yeah, for downsides 5.2, and then that next one there 4.3 as potential support pullback zones. But like I said, we're thinking positive. So what's going on in the shorter term on the Renko? Well, it's been quite a bit of a boxy year 2023 here. We've got 35 block size, but you can see, you know, those highs put in the earlier part of the year, tested again in August, down to the lows. We're talking 5,400 to 6,300. So we got that range there. And what we're looking for here, I would hope, is this type of pattern breakout in the shorter term. We're right around the point of control, 61.8% Fibonacci line, 6,000. Got to get through those highs, 6,300. We're talking then 6,500, nearly 6,700 to the upside. Downside support areas 5,750, 5,600, and then those lows 5,400. Not a lot of volume down that way, and not a lot to the upside either. But again, we're thinking positive, so we're looking for that move on upwards. Now, one of the smaller stocks on the list, about 1.5 billion market cap, 3,200 employees. Been around since the 1950s, so decent long-term company. What do they do? It's all about machinery, tools, heavy vehicles, trains and ships. Based Richards Bay, South Africa. Manufacture, distribute, export materials handling equipment in South Africa as well as internationally. Offer things like articulated dump trucks, loaders, excavators, rocket scalers, telescopic handlers, wheel loaders, that sort of thing. You get the idea. You know, trucks, for, you know, that type of product, operating in all sorts of different sectors. You know, agriculture, forestry, that type of thing. Decent looking chart from 2020 onwards. Let's just zoom out there. What have we got? We've got a quite staggering 630% return there. You see that real nice strong run up. Everything looking bullish down the bottom. Volatility quite low, 35%. Price wise, well, we did have these highs. It has broken them back from 2018. It was about 1,700. Let's just zoom out a bit, get the Fibonacci's on there to see where it could be heading. The lows posted in right down there at 280, let's call that. Take it to the recent highs. And what have we got? Potential upside moves here. 2,400, we're going to round that up, and then 2,650, 2,630 area. It's been on this nice, you know, solid trajectory in this type of band type play at the moment. In terms of pullback support areas, we've got first one 1,580, then 1,300, and then 900 point of control around that other key Fibonacci line back there at that 900 zone, really where it started to break up through that pullback. So looking pretty decent at the moment. Let's have a look in on the Renko. So what have we got? We got this recent pullback and then stabilization around the point of control area 1760. Bounced from that key Fibonacci line 1700, not a lot of volume, all the way down to that next Fibonacci line 1500. So we got this sort of range of price action in between there where not a lot is going on direction wise. You can see the lows put in there at 1400, try to test them again before bouncing on up. Bit of sideways action and then that recent break up and pull back, but we're looking positive, so we're talking those highs around 1900, then we would be targeting the early 2000s and then about 2100. Now my final selection is a company called Grindrod from Durban in South Africa, into freight and logistical services. Do operate globally as well. A decent sized organisation, 4,000 employees. Market cap wise, I think we're talking about 8 billion sort of area. So not a massive one, but a recent, decent growing organisation. What else do we need to know? In terms of the freight and logistics that they focus in on, we're talking more industrial stuff here. From port activities, containers, road, rail, seaborne freight, agricultural commodities. They cover off that heavier part of the logistical and freight service. So into the chart, let's go back to the weekly one there. Let's pick out our last stock. There we go. You can see that dip in the price action that we've seen over the later part of the, and created this saucer or cup type approach. Got the handle going on there. That's a famous old pattern in technical analysis world. In terms of the Fibonacci's, we got this high in here, 1580 back in 2017, lows at 280 in March of 2020. So let's pull them out, see what we can discover. Anything to take away? Well, we've got this key line around 1,000. We can see it's 1, 2, 3 touches to try and get through up to the highs. I would call that around about 1,600. There's some volume above that might slow it down in that progression towards that zone, but we've also got a couple of key pullback areas here as well. That one especially, 61.8% line, just under 800. Not a lot of volume there for a slip down to the point of control, just under 500, where that recent run up all started from. But it's been like I said, a decent run up there, up 300% from the lows back in 2020. So what's the Renko showing us? So the picture to me has been a bit more of a quieter 23 through first half of the year, and then we've got this breakout up, testing those highs at 1,200, just pulling back to that Fibonacci line, 1120, point of control just under the 1,000, sort of more towards the 950 area. You can see lots of touches around that sort of zone. Still trading above its moving average there. Could be pulling back, to this at 1,050, 1,000 zone before pushing on back up through those highs. 1,300, 1,360, 1,450 sort of zone. And look for those key downside areas at the moment. Short term wise, it's just in a bit of a sell off, so maybe a buy the dip opportunity. Trend though still holding strong. So there you go, my 8 stock picks on the South African stock market for Q4 2023. Remember, if you do have an interest in any of those, do your own research, do diligence, get them all risked properly before committing your own cash. Remember, these are just my ideas. Let me know also in the comments below, what are you looking at in the next 3 months? Do you agree with my 8? Disagree? Like I said, love to hear from you and see what you are trading up until the end of the year. And I also mentioned in the video a bit about a Renko trading playlist on the channel. I've got a very detailed step-by-step playlist on how you can master the Renko charts, not just on understand what I've done in this video, but building into your own strategies across all sorts of markets. Like I said, it's all there for you on that playlist. And also, if you want me to trade for you, then also run a new copy trading service called iGoX, doing rather well. I'll also put a link to a playlist I've got on the channel there for you, so you can understand more about that as well. And those two playlists are coming up now.